Delta's first concourse at, at LaGuardia. Before we begin, I would like to do a number of acknowledgments. I'd ask you to hold your applause until the end. With us today, Melinda Katz, Queensborough President, from the New York... Now, all right, you have to learn to follow directions. From the New York Senate, Kevin Thomas. From the New York State Assembly, Eric DeLon, Amy Paulin, Daniel Rosenthal, Al Tyler, Claude Vanel, and David Weprin. We're also pleased to have with us today the chairman of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Kevin O'Toole, who is a true partner in moving things forward at the port. We also have George McDonald, Port Authority Commissioner. From Delta Airlines, we have Ed Bastian, CEO, Glenn Howenstein, President, excuse me, Ryan Marzullo, and Patricia Orens, I have to call her Patty Orens, Managing Director. From the New York Mets, we're delighted to have Jeff Wilpon, General Manager Brody Van Wagenen, Noah Syndergaard, and Todd Zeal. Go Mets. From LaGuardia Gateway Partners, Stuart Steves, CEO, George Casey, Chair and CEO of Vantage Airport Group, and Magnus Eriksson, Executive Vice President of Skanska. Rick Blatstein, founder and CEO of OTG Management. Kathy Wild, President and CEO, Partnership for New York City. From Labor, Thomas Callahan, IUOE Local 15. Joe D'Amato from the Laborers, Local 731, and Larry Engelstein from 32BJ. I'd like to particularly give a shout out and a big thank you to the Laborers Union who are here in force today, and to all of organized labor without whom this project would not be where it is today. And finally, a big thank you to the staff of the Port Authority. There are too many people to do justice to, but I want to call out in particular Huntley Lawrence and his colleagues from the Aviation Division, Jim Sterace and his colleagues from Engineering, and Rich Smythe, Project Manager for the Port Authority for this entire project, and the Port Authority Police Department and all the operations staff who have worked so hard to keep the airport going while the construction project is underway. So a big round of applause. So we are here today to celebrate the opening of the first new Delta concourse as part of Governor Cuomo's vision for a whole new LaGuardia. And we are in the midst of building an entirely new LaGuardia Airport, the first totally new airport in the United States in 25 years. We're tearing down every single passenger building with the exception of the landmark Marine Air Terminal and building a new state-of-the-art airport worthy of New York. We're also tearing down every square foot of the old roads, and we're building a wholly new roadway network. Earlier this year, J.D. Powers labeled LaGuardia the most extensive airport construction project currently underway anywhere. Now, my job here today is to describe briefly the new concourse and to put it in the context of the whole airport rebuild. But before I turn to that, I want to put this project in another context. We would not be here today without Governor Andrew Cuomo. Now, I didn't tell the governor I was going to tell this story, so I'm on a little bit of thin ice here. But But sometimes that phrase of "we would not be here today" is said figuratively, but that's not the story here at LaGuardia. And I want to take a moment to tell the story and to remind everyone of how we got here. The Port Authority had originally proposed on an ad hoc basis to rebuild a single terminal and a new garage. But it was Governor Cuomo who asked, where's the vision? Where's the master plan to build a world-class airport based on global best practices and global standards? Simple answer is that it did not exist. The governor acted. The governor appointed a blue ribbon airport advisory panel to develop a vision and a master plan. He named as chair of the panel Dan Tishman, an extraordinarily accomplished and experienced civic-minded builder and construction executive. He also named to the commission Borough President Melinda Katz, an inspired and dedicated elected official who represents the neighborhoods around the airport. He appointed Tony Collins, president of Clarkson University, then fresh from his role as chair of the City Design Commission, and Amanda Burden, fresh from her tenure as head of the City Planning Commission. He appointed Harvard professor Jose Gomez-Ibanez, nationally known expert in transportation and infrastructure, and he appointed the late John Zuccotti, longtime civic leader who held multiple government and civic leadership posts, too numerous to mention, and finally Jackie Snyder, also the former executive director of the City Design Commission. This was a high-powered expert group who responded promptly to the governor's request and produced a well-conceived vision and master plan for a world-class LaGuardia. Now, needless to say, the government was not about to have this plan sit on the shelf. So the government took two key steps. First, he intervened forcefully. I probably don't need that word. He intervened forcefully at the Port Authority to secure the adoption of the plan. And second, he placed a call to a senior executive at Delta. Now, Delta had a long-term lease on its terminals at LaGuardia. Delta did not have to participate in this project. The airline had every legal right to continue in its existing terminals. Now, I'll make two comments about that call. And I was in the room with the governor when he made it. First, the governor is a very persuasive individual. But second, and at least equally important, the Delta executive on the phone was made of the right stuff. He reciprocated with leadership and vision of his own. And ultimately, he led Delta and an extraordinarily talented Delta team to commit $3.4 billion to rebuild their terminal buildings from the ground up, while the Port Authority committed $600 million in additional infrastructure costs in and around the new Delta terminal. And between them, they agreed to build both projects on the east and west, and so was born the $8 billion rebuild of a whole new LaGuardia. And I would like to say, as a citizen of New York, Governor, thank you. Thank you for your vision. Thank you for your leadership. We would not be here without it. So let's talk about the airport. Here is the footprint of the entire new airport. Note two things. First, every single building you see in the rendering is being built brand new from the ground up, and it will be a single integrated airport from west to east for the first time. Second, the entire integrated frontage of the new airport has moved forward, closer to the Grand Central Parkway. That allows the airport to add vastly expanded airplane taxiway space to reduce gate congestion. Now, this project is not only hugely ambitious in terms of its scope, we are also committed to getting it done as quickly as possible. We broke ground 3 years ago. Within 18 months, in February 2018, we opened LaGuardia's new West Garage, which is highlighted in red. 10 months ago, we celebrated the opening of the new LaGuardia's first new concourse, highlighted in red here, with 18 gates, world-class amenities, and 55-foot floor-to-ceiling windows that bathe the concourse in natural light. And we are grateful for the partnership of LaGuardia Gateway Partners for their work on Terminal B. Today, we are opening the first new Delta concourse at the new LaGuardia Airport, anchoring the far eastern end of the airport, as you can see on this rendering. This concourse, as you can see sitting in it, will be a stunning addition to the new LaGuardia, not only with world-class amenities with a New York flair, but also with iconic views of Citi Field and Flushing Bay. And you will hear more details on the new concourse in a moment from Ed Bastian. Of course, following today's opening, the new LaGuardia Airport will continue building at a remarkable pace. Next to open in the middle of next year will be the expansive Terminal B Arrivals and Departures Hall, highlighted on this slide. The Terminal B arrivals and departures hall is the large building that you see most prominently under construction today from the Grand Central Parkway, and which you undoubtedly drove past if you were coming from the city. And shortly thereafter, the first new gates in Terminal B's second concourse will open. Now here you see what the fully completed Terminal B with its 2 island concourses at the western end of the airport will look like. But turning back to Delta's world-class Terminal C. Beyond this concourse, which is remarkable, Delta will now work to complete its own extraordinary new arrivals and departures hall, along with 3 additional concourses. And even that is not the end of the story. We are building a brand new central hall linking Terminal B on the west and Delta's Terminal C on the east into a single unified airport. 2 AirTrain stations, one serving the central hall and one serving the Delta terminal here on the eastern side of the airport, highlighted in red, will be the capstone of the brand new LaGuardia. The LaGuardia AirTrain will provide a vital train-to-plane alternative that will get 6 to 10 million passengers out of their cars and off congested roadways. No longer will LaGuardia be the only major airport on the East Coast without a rail mass transit link. And last week, I'm pleased to say that the Port Authority's Board of Commissioners authorized $2 billion to provide full funding for the AirTrain project. The Port Authority's preferred alternative for the AirTrain will provide a reliable 30-minute trip from either Penn Station or from Grand Central once East Side access opens. At LaGuardia, this project is on an aggressive timeline with major milestones to celebrate virtually every 9 months. As I said at the beginning of my remarks, we would not be here today in the absence of the remarkable partnership that Governor Cuomo and Delta CEO Ed Bastian formed in that historic telephone call just a very few years ago. So now it is my pleasure to introduce the Port Authority's terrific partner on this project. He has been and is integral to building a whole new LaGuardia. That may be in part because he comes from New York, and we know that his heart is fully committed to New York. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to introduce Delta CEO Ed Bastian.
Well, thank you, Rick. It's truly an honor to be here today. I do recall that phone call from the governor. Don't recall exactly how it went, exactly, and all the details, probably details we can't share here.